Welcome back. So what if we had more than one element and we had different types of elements? So let's create a main div and give it an ID of main. This is where all of the main action is going to take place, and we're going to loop through and update, select all of the elements contained within the main element. And this could also have paragraph, as well as it could have a span and any type of element. So what we want to do is we want to load all of the elements that are contained within a main, and we want to create a node list with those, and all using JavaScript. So what that's going to do is that's going to build out an element list of all the current available elements on the page or that are contained within main. I'm going to get rid of this console option, the console log messages, as we want to clear that up. So just make sure that they're not there. Do a quick refresh, do an update. So everything is still updating and working properly. But in this case, I want to select any one of these elements that are available. So we don't have just one element that we're always selecting. So we want to make this more dynamic. And currently we're selecting the div, and we've got more than one div. So we will potentially have some problems with these elements. And as stated before, if we're just selecting the div, then we're automatically selecting that main element, and that's going to represent that first div there that's available on the page. So let's make this more dynamic. And the way that we're going to do that is within the document content loaded function. So here we're looping through each one of the available array class values, and we're outputting those. And we can also list out all of the elements. So let's create a main container, and this will be our main, we can call it node lister. We're going to contain all of the main node contents so that we can utilize this in any one of the functions. So I've made it global, and we can access that globally. So if we do node lister, and right now it's undefined, there's no content in it. So let's select all of the elements that are contained directly within the main object. We'll clear this out, and I'll do it here within the console first. So using document, the document object, query selector, we want to select all of the elements contained within main. So main in itself is going to have an ID. So we can select that element with the ID of main. So we are able to make that selection. But we actually want to select all of the applicable elements. So we're using query selector all, and this creates a node list. As you can see here, it's going to return back a node list, and I only have the one node that represents the div. So let's fine tune this. In the same way as you would with CSS, you can specify that you want to select all of the nodes that are directly under main. So if we do add any more dynamically, it's going to list all of those out. So you can see when we use query selector all, we get a node list, and we've got each one of the available nodes in the list is being shown here within the node list. So let's do the same thing within our code, where we're going to bring this selection into the code and attach it to an object, and we can call this the node lister object. So this is that one that we created, and we can equal that to be equal to that. So now whenever I refresh, and if I output node lister, we're going to see we're going to get a listing of all the available elements on the page that are contained within the main ID element. So the same way as we loop through the class list, we can loop through a node list. So node list isn't exactly an array, but some of the things behave the same way. So if we want to iterate through a list of them, we could do the same thing as we did here with the for each loop. So looping through, we can take the node lister and use for each and loop through each one of the current elements that are available within the node list. And we can also console out each one of those items. So we can see that now when we refresh, we've got each one of the elements being represented here on the page. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to have a drop-down list so the user can actually select the elements dynamically and then apply these properties to them. So we're going to do that in the upcoming lesson. So for now, try query selector all, select the element main, and then select all of the elements that are directly beneath main and return that into a global object called nodeLister, and then you can loop through nodeLister and output each one of those element objects. So they're ready to use, and they're in the same state as if we made the selection with query selector, as we've attached to that instance of that element in the document object model. So that means that we can manipulate it, we can update it, and we can do a whole bunch of really neat things. So that is all yet to come in the upcoming lessons.